Hi, I'm Andy Schmuckler, experimenting with bringing music in, theme music, O'Toole doing Bach. I'm Andy Schmuckler. My work I call A Better Human Story. By a better human story, I mean an integrated vision that incorporates the various emergencies that we face as a species on this planet, including most immediately the emergency about saving American democracy, which is part of a much larger picture, which has to do with saving human civilization. American democracy substantially destroyed it. The coming election, coming election goes in the direction of somebody who's already indicated he's got a plan how to destroy our democracy, and who would be inaugurated in January, a year away. But the human civilization also is in danger in a longer term sense. And the two are connected because if we lose American democracy, the world loses the leader of the free world. If we side as a country with the fascist dictator from Russia, if we side with the fossil fuel industry that does nothing about, but lie about climate change and impede our doing anything about it, if we cease to be a society in which the people get served by having the government be an instrument of the people with the consent of the government, and are instead turned into a top-down dictatorship. All of that bodes poorly for the species as a whole in the coming generation. I won't go into that because I'm fixated rather on the immediate situation in America, which is that there's a must-win election coming up in just a matter of months. And we found ourselves in a position right now where the side that must win if American democracy is going to survive is presently headed by somebody who, in the opinion of a lot of people, but not apparently himself, quite damaged in terms of his ability to get the kind of the outpouring of support that we need so that the Electoral College will deliver 270 plus votes and make him the president rather than the guy who's been president before and has become even more emboldened about being lawless by the Supreme Court and by his own quest for vengeance and power without check, who has subdued a whole major American political party to do anything he says. So we can see a very stark choice. And President Biden, who yesterday I thought had essentially subdued the objections from the people who realize that we got to win this thing, with his defiance and his statements again and again. Only God Almighty could get him to back down. But apparently I was mistaken in thinking that that game was over. Nancy Pelosi, most importantly, um, weighed in with a very strange but sort of loving and chiding and pushing subtle statement of, oh, I support whatever he decides, as if he hadn't already announced that he'd decided, which was a very interesting way of putting it. And I see on the futures markets that at the moment, people believe that Joe Biden is less likely, is more likely than not to step down. It is only his decision. Nobody can force it. The delegates are there for him if he wants the nomination. But maybe he's going to back down. And if he steps down, I think that it is important that he makes the best possible use of the situation, that he deliver a home run of a speech. If I were Biden and at all considering that I might step down, I would put my best speechwriter to work right now on composing that, because, as Pelosi said, time is getting short. It would have been better if in the first week he had delivered a home run of a speech, because now he's shown other aspects of himself that are less creditable than what this speech should showcase him as being, which is a guy who's willing to set aside his own desires, what he wants for himself, for the good of the nation, which is a lot of what people have said. You know, the headlines of this person and that person, The Economist, New York Times, all these places that have come and said he needs to step down for the good of the nation. He can still model that, not as purely as he could have right away, but still can do it, and that can serve as a contrast. And when he talks about the good of the nation, that is an opportunity to present the nation with a picture of what it is that makes it essential that even though he really wants a second term, he can't ignore that so many people that he respects and who love him and who respect his accomplishments are telling him he's taking a risky course in terms of the survival of American democracy. And that opens the door to tell the American people why it is so risky, why nobody who cares about the heritage we got from the framers of our Constitution and the rule of law and the consent of the governed and all that stuff about democracy, nobody should be considering voting for Donald Trump. Therefore, it is important to put forward the candidate who's most likely to win, because the survival of all that depends on it. And all these people, like Adam Smith from Washington State, and all these people just talk about how huge the stakes are, and that bringing to life how huge the stakes are. This is not a normal election, because the election of Donald Trump would not be a normal outcome. It would represent a possible death blow to the American Republic we've had for over 2 centuries. So this home run of a speech is an opportunity to present vividly to the American people why it is essential that the Democrats put forward the candidate most likely to win. And he's been persuaded that it is too risky for him to go with his gut feeling that he was the best one. Collective wisdom is important. The interests of the country are vital. What he wants for himself, his own private judgments, he's not going to have the hubris to put that above the survival of the rule of law and the power of the people over their government. Not in the face of as many people as have told him we can do better and have a better chance of saving American democracy. Now, this speech, I don't know what forum it should be delivered. There may be a way to deliver this speech as a president talking to the American people from the Oval Office or from one of the podia that the presidents sometimes use. There's a line that has to be drawn between it being a president saying to the American people what needs to be said, as happens, in every presidency just about. And it can't be a political statement, which is not appropriate to deliver in that forum. On the other hand, when a president takes an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and that is indeed what's at stake here, I think a case maybe can be made that this can be delivered as a presidential address to the people. So, first element is I am going to put the needs of the nation ahead of myself. That draws a nice contrast to somebody else who manifestly, again and again and again, continually seems to care about nothing but getting what he wants for himself. How much to go into that, I don't know. But it feeds directly into why you cannot afford to take any chances about Donald Trump getting elected president when he's going to be dictator from day one, when he's got this Project 2025. However you present it, there should be a vivid picture right there presented to the American people to get them alerted to these are the huge stakes in this election. Because I believe that at least 2/3 of the American people, if they understood the stakes in this election, would vote for the Democratic candidate, because that is the only alternative to losing all that. And then once he's laid out, well, these are the stakes and this is why we need to, here's how we can get to the best candidate. And it's not an automatic handover to Kamala Harris, though there's room for him to say how great he thinks she is. She can be one of the competitors, and what he needs to lay out for the American people and for the Democratic Party is, I'm going to try to lead us through this process. We get to a list of 5 or 6 people. I don't have a great idea about how to do that, but we got to do it in a hurry. The American people will forgive. There's pretty much consensus about who would be on that list. At least, the first 4 or 5 are sort of mentioned by everybody. At least the 4, some governors. In addition to Kamala Harris, the vice president, there's Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, there's Gavin Newsom of California, there's Shapiro of Pennsylvania, there's Wes Moore of Maryland, there's Pritzker mentioned of Illinois, and I don't know if anybody else should be on it, but the list should be finite, because the second part of it, once you got that list, is to set up some forums that I think would get national attention, national televised attention, because it's like American Idol. It'll not only be great campaign speeches, but people will be interested because their performance is in a competition. Who's going to persuade those 3,000 plus delegates that'll be at the convention that they're the ones to go forward with their positive vision and with their way of prosecuting the case? Don't vote for this fascistic force, or however they want to put it. People are interested in competitions. This is a competition, and it'll be a competition not battering each other, but each one making their best possible statements, showing what they got. It's a tryout. Like you try out for a part in a play by reading the lines. Here's how I would present my positive vision. Here's how I'd prosecute the case against Donald Trump to the American people, so they'll vote for me and not for him. There's time for at least one round of that, and if there are 6 people and each person gets 15 minutes or 20 minutes to present themselves, that's 2 hours for all people to do their stuff right in front of the American people, and perhaps on national television. And then we get to the convention, and maybe we have another round of those performances where the delegates to the convention and the national TV audience all see them delivering maybe another speech which expands upon what they already says, or says it in a new way, however they want to do it. And then the delegates to the convention make their judgment. And their judgment is to be rendered in ranked choice voting. We don't need multiple ballots. No more than 3, maybe just 1. As soon as you employ ranked choice voting, that's the last ballot, because ranked choice voting consistently, inevitably, mathematically results in a majority. First, the last place finisher, the people who voted for that person, their delegates go according to the second choices, and so on. And I think we need to have developed a computer program that can process the ranked choice ballots of the various delegates in a quick way, so that you crank out, get rid of the 5th, get rid of the 4th, get rid of the 3rd, then you get down to 2. And when you crank that out, somebody's got more than 50%, and that's the winner. Perfectly legitimate. I don't think anybody would be alienated. Everybody agrees. everybody should agree, everybody will agree that the candidate most likely to win is what you need when the survival of American democracy is at stake. Everybody's going to agree that this process allows all these people, 5 or 6 of them, to woo the candidates who eventually are going to make it the choice. Everybody's going to agree that this 3,000 to 4,000 delegates is a reasonable facsimile of the world of the democratic world. They've been elected, ran as delegates, were elected. And people will forgive if it's not exactly 100% the same as running primaries over a 2-year period like we ordinarily would do. This is what you could do, and this is what you got to do when the survival of American democracy is at stake. Whatever result is reached will be entirely acceptable to the wider world. People may not think, there will be differences of opinion about who should have won, but the result will be considered legitimate. And the Democratic Party can leave that convention with probably a very good choice, with probably considerable unity, probably great unity. And the American people will have seen a whole bunch of really good speeches of people who would like to be the nominee trying out for it. And the basic pattern of the democratic process will have moved from, can we afford to have Joe Biden as our leader when 72% of the people think his age has rendered him unfit for the office? It'll have moved right away into the proper territory for Democrats to be waging this campaign for victory in November. Positive vision, rejecting fascism. This is the immediate task at hand, it seems to me. I'd like to think that Joe Biden can see the handwriting on the wall already and has put his best speechwriters to work on doing something like this so that he can start this process with a home run. But in any event, that's where hope lies for me. Hope for the survival of American democracy and hope for the survival of human civilization, which depends a whole lot on the outcome of this American election. We as a species need to create a world in which things like the invasion of Ukraine are punished and maybe eventually can't happen at all. Donald Trump isn't going to take us there. A Democratic winner will at least be the leader of the free world, which is a pretty good step in that direction. We need a human civilization in which we're taking positive steps to deal with the climate crisis. A Democratic nominee will continue the good work that has been accomplished already by Joe Biden in this first term. Donald Trump is hand in glove with the fossil fuel industry that's done everything it could to paralyze any action, and so on and so on. If we look at the problems of whether human civilization will survive on this planet and what we need to overcome, please take a look at my Better Human story. This force of fascism in America can be best understood as something which is a current modern example of what we have been up against for millennia, and the kind of force of destructiveness that we need to overcome as a species if human civilization is going to be able to survive for the long haul rather than destroying ourselves. So it's all part of one picture. I hope that you will follow what I say in future videos here, and that you'll go to abetterhumanstory.org to see a lot of this stuff laid out in a very systematic fashion. And if you think this is worthwhile stuff, you would do me a favor, and if I'm right about things, you would do us all a favor if you send the link to all this stuff to people you know who might find it of interest. So I'm going to leave with playing my experiment with having Jethro Tull and Bach take us away. This is Andy Schmuckler, um, host of this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, A Better Human Story, an integrated vision of the challenges that we face as Americans most immediately, and as a civilization creating species on this planet ultimately. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.